Drake.
Drake.
Drake is an early adapter of AI. They're saying all of the Kendrick AI fake disses are Drake. They're saying that before this tailor-made freestyle, the records that were allegedly Drake responding were AI. And as you know, in the tailor-made freestyle, Drake uses a Tupac filter, I guess. I don't know what to call it just yet.
Tupac's voice.
He uses what sounds like is an effect that makes you sound like Tupac.
Right, which is essentially what people are doing with AI these days. There's all types of programs where you can create music with voices of people who, already exist.
Right. So the
Or have
record
existed.
has right. So the record has an AI verse. It has a verse of AI Tupac, followed by a verse of AI Snoop Dogg, which sounds much better filter wise. Like the Snoop sounded way more like Snoop than the Pac voice.
Well, that's probably because you could find recent audio of Snoop, which is probably sharper. Sharper is probably not the word, but it was just probably better, crisper than audio from Tupac. That's probably a lot older.
Right. And I wonder is Tupac's brother mad because
Possible.
Drake didn't say enemies? Come on, man, you got an enemies, Hennessy's niggas, you know what I'm saying? Come on, even when Dave Chappelle did the fake Tupac joint, you know what I mean? He said, "On my enemies," you know what I mean? So anyway, Tupac's estate has sent a cease and desist to Drake, which is interesting because also, if you've been on the internet seeing these things, you probably also know Drake released the non-AI version as well. So you can find the version where it's just Drake rapping the verses without the filters or effects, whatever. But I think this is interesting. I think this sparks a very interesting conversation about the usage of AI. We know that last year, I think it was, maybe the year before. I'm pretty sure it was last year. There was an AI song going around of Drake and The Weeknd, and their people put a stop to the song. And even though the people I guess, who created the song were trying to get it like into Grammy nominations and stuff like that. So there's a lot of AI conversations. We speak about AI up here a lot. We just spoke about Will I Am and AI the other day. And to me, this is interesting because it kind of puts you down a rabbit hole, no pun intended. Don't do it. Don't you do it. But because the question is okay, so we know that you can no longer use AI in certain ways, right? And there's a push already for legislation to be put in place for AI.
Right.
But when it's labels and big artists using AI, it raises new questions. Snoop responded, but not really. When the record first came out, Taylor Made Freestyle, there was a video of Snoop acting like he just woke up. He was, acting like he was sleepy. He's rubbing his eyes. He's like, yeah, I just woke up, y'all. Y'all saying something happened. What happened? I don't know. Did something happen? Huh. I don't know what y'all are even talking about. And then he goes like this, and he pans to a jacket he has on with the Death Row logo. And then he goes, I'm gonna go back to sleep, y'all. Y'all have a good night. And so it was kind of a cosign, kind of him saying I'm unbothered,
Yeah.
which is fine. But what happens when someone is bothered, right? What happens when
Mm-hmm.
someone says, I'm not really digging that, even though another artist did it? Made Freestyle is not at this moment on the moment we're recording this, is not on
Mm-hmm.
any streaming platforms, neither version.
Mm-hmm.
But it begs the question: what happens if Drake wanted to put not this project, this song out with the AI filters?
Doesn't sound like he can.
Right. And so I'm curious what the new process will be. I'm curious, will the legislative push also involve legislation that says things about this part of the AI usage?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see a lot more legal, not jargon.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to see a lot more legal conversations
Yeah.
surrounding AI, the use of AI, and I think they're going to have to put some restrictions on what can happen with AI, because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, uh, there's nothing that stops uh, AI artists from being popular. The usage of other people's, uh, I can't even say work because it's your voice or whatever, but the oh, AI use of people's likeness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if that's the case, I could have, an AI Tupac album. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Um,
not according to his estate.
right. And Tupac, absolutely. That was the first name that came to mind since we were talking about it. But, I could go do a Brooklyn's Born album with me and Biggie. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And, I might have a feature from Jay-Z up there too. Who knows? Um, and so I think it's an interesting conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the fact that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard the Tupac and Snoop Dogg verses up there, I was really curious what was going to happen moving forward, because I don't know what's up with Tupac's estate. I know it exists, obviously, but I do know Snoop Dogg is alive and well. So I was surprised when Snoop did the jokey joke thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially because he has a relationship with Kendrick. He's, a West Coast guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And so him making a joke and staying out of it is fine, but I don't think every artist is going to do that. I don't think every estate is going to do that.
No.
As we see with Tupac's estate. Tupac's estate is saying we don't want this happening. Um
I kind of understand it though, because if you think about it, Tupac's death is very controversial. Just the whole story around Tupac's death. And the fact that his voice was used by a well known artist in the middle of a rap beef, knowing how he was killed or knowing how, like, what was happening at the time of his death, it's a little weird. I think if I was a family member or someone who was close to them, I'd think it was in poor taste also. I never I never I didn't make that connection until now, but as we're speaking about it, I'm like, yeah, it's a little like, maybe in the grand scheme of things, when you're thinking about creating art, that's not the at the forefront of your mind. But I could totally see someone who's connected to him in an important way being like, that's kind of like, don't involve him in a rap beef when
yeah,
that's the past, like the past that is connected to him and his death. It just it just seems kind of weird when you think about it, if you really
yeah,
really think about that. And again, I'm not saying that, I don't know that Drake made that connection or gave much thought to it or anything like that. Probably didn't.
right.
But
Probably not.
when you really sit down and think about it, it's like, I kind of see why. I mean, they didn't say that's why, but I could
Right.
see that being a cause of, like, keep his name, keep his
Keep
voice.
my wife's name.
Right. I could totally see that being an area of contention.
Yeah.
So
I have the statement here from Tupac's estate.
okay.
It says the estate is deeply dismayed and disappointed by your unauthorized use of Tupac's voice and personality.
Mm-hmm.
King wrote in a letter. Not only is the record a flagrant violation of Tupac's publicity and the estate's legal rights,
Mm-hmm.
it is also a blatant abuse of the legacy of one of the greatest hip hop artists of all time. The estate would never have given its approval for this use. It's hard to believe that Tupac's record label's intellectual property was not scraped to create the fake Tupac AI on the record, King wrote before demanding that Drake also provide, quote, a detailed explanation for how the sound alike was created and the persons or company that created it, including all recordings and other data, are scrapped or used.
Oh, they said we want to know everything.
Yes, the opposite of Mario Winans.
I
They
don't
said, I do want
want
to
to
know.
know.
Right? They said we want to know everything. In fact,
Keep it on the low.
you know what I'm saying? My
'Cause
man
my
was in the
heart
tub
can't
with all
take
his
it
clothes on.
anymore.
That's the one thing I remember about that video the most.
Please
He
don't
was in the
let it.
tub, fully clothed like this.
I remember that. And then they were outside. He was outside of a house, just singing,
Supposed
bopping
to be
his
her
head.
house.
But yeah, I'm
And I
curious
think
to see
that's
how this
interesting
ends.
too.
Huh?
Oh, go ahead.
I
No,
was
no,
gonna,
you first.
I was gonna say I'm curious to see how this ends. Like I said, I get it. I think that is deeper than the superficiality that we're seeing connected to this beef. I think it's a lot deeper than that. And you gotta listen, when you're talking about people who have passed on, you have to be a bit more sensitive. And I understand, again, I totally understand this is hip hop. Drake is just doing what Drake does. But sometimes you do what you do and there are consequences to it. So, you know, curious to
I
see
agree.
how this plays out. Because like you said, it's out there. And it's not like they could gather up all the iterations of it at this point, or everything that's come out, or every time it's been shared, or whatever it is. It's not like they could do that. So it's out there, and it will continue to be out there. But I'm curious to see. Maybe Drake negotiates something with his estate. I don't know. You never know.
I don't think so based on that verbiage.
I don't
And I
think so
think it's really
either.
smart. And I think it's really smart that they're saying, like, we want to know how this was even done because
Right.
we would never allow some shit like this.
Right.
And I think that's where the real nooks and crannies are.
Hmm.
Because if you can learn how it was done, you might be able to stop it from happening again.
Right. And the only reason I say that they might that you know he might be able to work something out with them is because he is one of the biggest stars in the world, and they have a way of getting their way sometimes. So I don't know. You never know. But yeah, I'm okay with the stance they've taken. If they feel like it's not honoring his legacy, then that's their right. So, you know.
I agree.